So right now, what is going to be James's picks? James is
All
going
right,
to
well,
be
first I
recording
want
them.
to tell you
People are going to
that
come back and hold you
I
to
thought.
this.
Okay, now first I want to tell you that originally I thought if Trump got in right away, we'd have a temporary sell-off and then a rally. But we really didn't get that. We just got the futures market. The market started to go up. It has continued to go up. Last time I was on, I was saying, get your feet wet, keep your powder dry. Now I'm pretty much saying, you know what? You need to just jump on this thing. Like I would just dive into it. I would no hold back. And where I'd be looking right now, what looks like easy money to me, even though a lot of the stocks are up quite a bit already, is in the financial sector. You could play particularly the more old fashioned banks. Although a lot of the like JP Morgan looks pretty good, Morgan Stanley looks pretty good, but I'm looking at like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and what is it? UBS? Is it U.S. Bank Corp? Whatever that is. I think it's UBS is a symbol or whatever. U.S. Bank Corp. Those three probably. Even Citibank actually looks pretty decent. About a week ago, I would have probably said no, but I'm kind of liking the way it's looking. They had a bump. They're kind of consolidated. I think you got the deregulation play in the banks is just, this is going to roll for like 2 years here. You're going to have all kinds of action going on. You're going to have some banks are probably going to dissolve, like Bank of America might be going up because maybe it's a takeover target. Maybe it's going to get broken up. Maybe they're going to remember Merrill Lynch was forced to merge with Bank of America during the crisis during 2008. Maybe they're going to split them up again. Maybe not. This is pure speculation. And mind you, these kind of recommendations, what I'm telling you, just dive in. This is for people who have, you have the money to dive in with. I wouldn't, I'm not telling like 90-year-old grandmothers to cash out your life insurance policy. You just go, no, I'm almost that bullish. I'm ready to sell, sell the family jewelry and just jump. Like I think you just need to dive on this.
How would you jump? Would you jump into a financial ETF? Exchange?
Yeah, you know what I like? I looked because you had mentioned that the other day, and I looked up. You can still see me, right?
Yes,
All right, let's see. Yeah. I'm trying to. Let me just pull. There's XLF, which is an ESP.
Yeah.
I like that one quite a bit, and I like the way it's trading. It gives you a whole bunch of those, sort of a mix of the banking sector. All big stuff in there. There's not like crazy little I mean, most of these companies are big companies and they pay dividends. The thing is a lot of them are like wounded because they're still saddled with all the CDOs from 2008 are like sitting in their portfolios. All those collateralized debt obligations are probably still laying around in Bank of America's portfolios. Wells Fargo or not. Wells Fargo had a big problem recently. So, if you look at it, I think it's a buy right here. The other thing is it's very important. You were talking about this. You say people are talking about impeach Trump. There's trouble in the streets. There's protests. Remember the famous words of Baron von Rothschild: "Buy when there's blood in the streets." And this is this is the time. Yeah, you gotta this is like the textbook example of buying when there's blood in the streets, because these protests are kind of like a bunch of screaming nuts who are just like to scream and complain. They don't even know what they're screaming about. Like I hear this nonsense like Trump is against gay rights, and I'm thinking to myself, he's a New Yorker. Like it's like that is so irrelevant to being a New Yorker. New Yorkers didn't think about stuff like that since like the 70s. Like that's how old that is. That's like a New Yorker. That's old news. We don't even think about stuff like that. It's not. Trump is interested in business. He's going to focus on deregulation. He wants you and mom to be able to start your business and do stuff. He wants you to be able to make money. He wants to rebuild the middle class. The middle class has got to make money. And generally, small business formation is like the key out of this mess. This is why you see all those charts and they say the people on the top are making, $100,000 a year, and the people on the bottom are making less and less. Now they're only making $20,000 because there's no small business formation. All those people who have, like, if you excuse the old sort of New York lottery like thing, where New York lottery say you only got to have $1 and a dream. Well, generally, a lot of small businesses are basically started with people who have $1 and a dream, and so. Those people have not had access to capital. They've had regulations against them. They've had all kinds of burdens like Obamacare, things like that have really hurt small businesses. If you're going to start to wheel out of this and slowly deregulate, this is a small business boom coming. This is just a boom, and I think it's just gonna boost.
Now,
them
James.
Go ahead.
Now, James. Now we've been in a bull market, which we've been in an up market for the last since 2010, 8 years. And you're saying, hey, we're still going to jump in the bull?
A bull market, in my mind, yeah, it's been up. But a bull market, a real bull market is like, look at the 90s, look at the 80s. What did the market do in 1980? The stock market was 1,000. It had taken the whole entire 60s. It had traded up and down and never kind of broke out of 1,000. Okay. In 82, the market took off. In 87, when it crashed, it was over 2,700. So it had almost tripled in less than 5 years. A stock market, a real stock market, that's a really good stock market. And this is a bull market. So do not confuse this with being smart. This has nothing to do with being smart. This is a good stock market, right? A stock market should triple every 10 years. So if you and I don't mean triple from the low, I mean triple from 2000 to 2010, you should have tripled in that time. So if you were at, say, 12,000 in 2000, we should be at 36,000 now. We're nowhere near that. So we had like a 60s market. It was kind of it kind of hovered. Anytime the government grows enormously, like it did it started when Bush was president. So say the last 10, 12 years, you had enormous size of government growth. That always puts a ceiling on the stock market movement. When you start to reverse that and you start to shrink the size of the government, the stock market rockets. Thus the 1920s, thus 1980s. Even for that matter, while Clinton was president, the government was relatively, small. It paid off its debt. It did a lot of things it did a lot of positive stuff. So we're coming to a time now. You're going to have a big period of deregulation. You're going to have shrinking in the size of government. I mean, Trump has signed executive orders that say. So James,
you're pretty much telling me,
right?
You're saying, hey, little young lad, you think you've seen a bull, but you haven't seen a bull. That's what you're pretty much saying.
Right. Yeah. Think of the 90s. In the 1990s, you were up You had 3 years in a row. The S&P was up over 25%. I mean, now I'm not saying that this is normal. I'm saying this happens periodically, and I think we're going into one of those stages. I'm not saying, and that just means, and the big problem is people think it's normal, and they think they're smart. That's why they're making money. They're not smart. It's a bull market. That's a real bull market.
That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. People always, I'm making money.
That's why I'm telling you, you need to get smart. Right, you just need to dive on this thing. It's like you need to, the bulls are running by. You just need to jump and grab around the neck of one and just ride this baby because, it's hot. I think it's getting to that time, and there's some fits and pauses. But then again, what did Trump say yesterday? You're going to have the tax cut for me in 3 weeks. We're going to have a massive tax cut. Okay. Now, what are some of these executive orders? One of them says for every new regulation, you have to get rid of 3 old regulations. One of them put a moratorium on all regulation. One put a moratorium on all hiring by the federal government except for the military. One of them, there's the couple that are aimed at Dodd-Frank. One says no more bailouts. Bailouts are out. Nothing can be bailed out by the taxpayer. Period. And so bailouts are over. I mean, you even had a guy today from the Fed quit because he was Obama's point man. He was the guy in charge of bailouts and the bailout nation. Well, he left because the bailout nation is over. The bailout nation has been retired. And this is I just think you're going to get into a period where you've got a lot of new technologies probably going to start breaking out again. If you get a lot of business formation, you have a lot of interesting things going on in finance that because of Dodd-Frank have not really flowered, like crowdfunding, things like that. You're going to see a lot of growth in banks and finance companies and things. And yeah, there's going to be problems. That always happens in finance. Look at your history. It goes up, then people always overdo it, and then it explodes. And then When it explodes, the smart people are the ones who go and buy everything instead of panicking. They're the ones who are out buying everything because you buy when things are on sale. The same time when you buy a new suit, you don't buy it when it comes out. You wait till it goes on sale and you buy the same thing half the price. That's what you do with stocks. I just think that I've gone from the point where I said, hey, wait a minute. I see that when I look at finance and I see all these changes that are coming, and it's going to be a process because there's going to be pushback. Like the banks don't want to get rid of Dodd-Frank. Well, they're going to get rid of Dodd-Frank no matter what. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. They're going to, so there's going to be pushback. It's not going to be steady. So there's going to be fits and starts. You're going to have big moves. Then it's going to level out. It's going to consolidate a little bit. Then you're going to have another big move. I think with the banks, you had your first move. Now you had a lot of consolidation. Now you're going to have all those banks. You're going to see like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bancorp, maybe even Citibank. They're all going to move up, as well as a lot of.
What about the big investment banks like the Goldman Sachs and the J.P. Morgan?
I look at like J.P. Morgan because J.P. Morgan's a little of both still, although it's primarily a bank now. Morgan Stanley. If you look at Morgan Stanley, you look at Goldman Sachs. I think that they're going to do it good. They're going to do well, but I think the more traditional banks are going to lead the way because they're the biggest mess and they're going to benefit the most by having the mess clean up. Remember I told you last time I said there's an old expression that says, if it can't get any better than this, it can only get worse. Well, with banks, it can't get any worse than this except for them all going out of business. So it can only get better. Like you can't fall off the floor. So anything that helps them a little bit, the price, they're gonna just start moving. And I think there's going to be a lot of action. I think there might be some takeovers. There might be some split ups. There might be some new banks formed. There might be some new investment banks might start appearing out of the woodwork again like they used to. There'll probably be a lot of changes in the hedge fund business. The hedge funds are another thing. You went 10 years and 82% of the hedge funds underperformed the indexes. Now you don't even have 2 months of Trump, and the hedge funds all outperformed all the indexes like crazy because the volume's coming back to action.